Hey everybody, so you're looking at the Honor Note 10. This was announced and released about a month and a half to 2 months ago in China. But I just got my hands on it, I'm a little bit late on it. So usually when I get a new phone, I do the whole unboxing and then I give a full-on testing and give an impression. I don't really need to do that with the Honor Note 10 because this phone runs on the exact same chipset, Kirin 970, as the Huawei P20 Pro, as the Honor 10, as the Huawei Mate 10, as like the Honor Play. So that means if you add up all the times I've tested those phones, I've used a Kirin 970 for like half a year already. So I know exactly what this phone offers. And for the most part, this phone is very, very similar to the Honor 10 and the Honor Play, with the obvious difference being this phone is freaking huge. This phone has a 7-inch display. That's the largest screen I've ever seen on a smartphone yet. So I'll just give you a comparison really quick. You have a Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus on the right, Huawei P20 Pro on the left. This is a relatively big screen phone already and it looks absolutely tiny next to the Honor Note 10. It's kind of like, you know when you see Shaq, who's freaking huge. He's 7 feet 2, 300 pounds. Shaq is usually huge, but when he stands next to Yao Ming, he looks tiny. This is what's happening here. You have Shaq next to Yao Ming. And I don't have the Note 8 or Note 9 anymore, but I have a paper cutout of the Galaxy Note 8. So you see how much bigger the Honor Note 10 is compared to Samsung's big screen phablet phone 2. But because of the 18:9 aspect ratio, the phone's actually surprisingly, I wouldn't say easy to hold, but it's not too hard to hold. You can still grip it very securely. The only complaint I have is the fingerprint reader is way too high. Now my hands aren't that small, I'm 5'10", so these are about average adult hand size. And if you hold a phone like that, you actually can't quite reach the fingerprint reader. So in order for me to reach it, I have to hold it a little bit higher like this, and that's just weird. The fingerprint reader should have been a little bit lower, like right here. I'm pretty sure MKBHD can reach it because, you know, he's 6'4", and you know, and he has big hands. But Donald Trump won't be able to reach this with his tiny ass hands. But that's not the reason why I'm making this video though. The reason I'm making this video is because I wanted to go on a rant, and this has been kind of bothering me for a few months now, but this phone really just made me decide that I have to speak up. So my rant, my problem is Chinese phones have no chill and they're releasing too damn many phones. They're flooding the market with phones that are very similar with virtually no difference. And even though this is good news to me, because I'm a tech reviewer, I get all these products sent to me. So to me, it's good. I have new content every week. But this is bad for the market, this is bad for other phone companies, and this is bad for consumers. So I'll tell you why. About 2 months ago, I reviewed the Honor Play. The Honor Play is supposed to be Honor's gaming phone. So what made that phone a gaming phone? It had a relatively large screen at 6.4 inches and GPU Turbo, which is Huawei's software optimization that boosts gaming performance. So now the Honor Note 10 also has GPU Turbo, and it has a 7-inch display without a notch. So this is a more immersive screen for gaming. And GPU Turbo, actually there's a dedicated button on the Honor Note 10 that you press it once, it brings up the menu for you to turn on GPU Turbo and other things like turn off notification and screen record. The Honor Play doesn't even offer that. And on top of that, this phone has stereo speakers, sounds coming off from the right and the left side, whereas the Honor Play only has a single bottom fine speaker. So what the heck makes Honor Play a gaming phone? This Honor Note 10 beats the Honor Play as a gaming device in literally every way. So it has a more functional GPU button, it has a larger screen, it has stereo sound, and this phone has a larger battery, 5,000 milliamp hours, so it will last longer too. So what makes the Honor Play a gaming phone? And both of these phones were released around the same time. They were both announced like a month, 3 weeks apart. So why is there a need for the Honor Play when the Honor Note 10 does the exact same thing but better? There's just no reason to release two phones other than Honor wanting to like sell to different markets, because this phone, the Note 10, is only released in China, whereas the Honor Play is released in Europe and Southeast Asia. But there's no reason for the Honor Play to exist. If you're a consumer who bought the Honor Play and you see the Honor Note 10, you're gonna be annoyed because this phone is a better gaming phone. Now, this phone's only released in China, but it's 2018. Everybody can just order stuff online. If you live in Europe, you can get this phone. You just have to pay a little bit of a markup. But this is a better phone than the Honor Play if you just want a gaming device. So let's look at Honor's release schedule. So Honor released the Honor 10 in April, and then the Honor Play and Honor Note 10 around the same time. and then the Honor 8X is coming next month, I think. And then in December, Honor's releasing the Honor Magic. You heard that here first, by the way. Honor Magic is coming in December. No other publication out there knows this information yet, because I know people at Huawei. So anyway, so that's like 5 phones in less than half a year, in like 5 months, 4 months. So like, what the heck? And you know, Honor's not the only one doing this. Meizu, in March, they released the Meizu 15. That was advertised as the company's flagship phone. It was the 15th anniversary phone. 3 months later, Meizu introduced the Meizu 16, which makes the Meizu 15 look bad. So now you're a loyal Meizu fan. Aren't you pissed off? You purchased the Meizu 15 only for Meizu to pump out a better phone 3 months later. So it's almost like a slap in the face to Meizu fans, right? And look at Xiaomi. It released the Xiaomi Mi 8 with the Snapdragon 845, and then a month later there's the Poco phone with the exact same chipset for a lot less money. Now granted, the Poco phone, it's a cheaper material. It's made of like a not a premium glass back, and it doesn't look as nice, I guess. But to be honest, if you're on the market for Xiaomi phone, you're on the market because you want the MIUI experience and the cheap price, and the Poco phone makes the Xiaomi Mi 8 not a good purchase. And companies are just doing that left and right. Like Vivo this year released like 5 phones already. I'm not going to count the Vivo Nix because that's actually a pretty cool phone. Let's look at the Vivo V11, V9, X21. All 3 phones are almost exactly the same. They run on the same chipset or similar, like Snapdragon 660, 670. Relatively same design, same screen size except like 0.1 inches. And it's just basically the same phone, other than the V11 has a smaller notch. So why is there a need to be a new release? There's like 5 Vivo phones out in a year. So I'll give you an analogy why this is bad. Let's say you live in a small town, a small white town. I actually spent 2 years in one of those. It's called Lakeport in California. Population 4,000. So in that small town, mostly white people, there's 2 Chinese restaurants. There's a really fancy one and a fast food one. And both of them each have their own market. A fast food market, a fancy market, and they do good business. So now let's say another company comes in and opens a 3rd Chinese restaurant that's like a mid-tier Chinese food. Then okay, the market is still fine. But let's say that company goes crazy and starts opening branches left and right. And other companies come in, and the next thing you know, there's like 32 Chinese restaurants in a small town with 4,000 people. Now, the market's going to dry out. Everybody's going to be annoyed. And no one's going to get good business, other than maybe the really fancy one, because they're like so fancy that they have their own set of customers. And that's kind of what's happening in the smartphone market. This is not going to hurt Apple or Samsung because they're too big, they have too much money, and their phones are premium, and mainstream consumers are convinced that their phones are just better and worth the money. Everyone else gets hurt. Like this flood of Chinese phones being released, it's killing LG and HTC. And you know, I respect both of those companies, even though I think HTC's last few phones have been trash. HTC deserves respect because they were one of the first premium Android phone makers. They were one of the first Android phones to have a metal unibody when everyone else is putting cheap plastic phones. So, but HTC makes no money. LG makes no money because LG puts out something like a G7, and it's a great phone, but it doesn't have the marketing power of Apple or Samsung, so it can't compete with that. And at the same time, there's like 15 Xiaomi phones a year. There's like 25 Vivo phones a year. So LG gets buried in all the flood of Chinese phones that sell at half the price. And these Chinese phones that sell really cheap, they don't make any money. When you sell phones at $300, $400, you don't make any money really. So they only survive because they're being subsidized or they have other plans. So Honor, for example, they can sell these cheap phones because Huawei makes billions of dollars everywhere else. Huawei's P and Mate series makes a lot of money, and Huawei makes a lot of money doing 4G telecommunications network. Same with Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus. They can sell their phones cheap because they're all owned by one parent company and they have other means of resources, and they just want to get the brand name out as far as possible. Xiaomi, same thing. They don't really make any money per phone sold, but they're trying to get the MIUI ecosystem to spread as big as possible. So they're looking at the long game. What the Chinese phones are doing now, they're kind of crazy. They're almost like willingly releasing phones at minimal profits just so they can get the brand names out, just so they can get the software out, and eventually all the middle phones like LG, HTC, Sony, they're just gonna die out. And these Chinese phones, the bubble might burst on them too. It's not like, so if you're Xiaomi, for example, you get your MIUI ecosystem everywhere, and then what? Like the Poco phone just makes your own phone look bad. If you're Vivo, you release like 5-6 phones a year. Eventually, people it's gonna not buy stuff. That's what happens in every market. That's what killed Sega. Remember Sega back in the 90s, they were a powerhouse. They had the Sega Genesis. And then they got greedy. They released the 32X. And then right after that, they released the Sega Saturn. Like within 1 year. And people who bought the 32X got pissed off. And that's what's happening with people who buy Meizu phones or Vivo phones. Yeah, so that's my rant. I want to get back to the Note 10 really quick. This phone is awesome, man. Just the virtue of having a 7-inch display. It's great. Kirin 970 is still a really good chipset, so gaming on a 7-inch display, it's awesome. And the phone, it's very zippy. I have Nova Launcher running right now, so it works even better. The camera is not as good as the P20 Pro, but it is still a very strong camera, especially for a mid-tier device. Like, it's not a bad camera at all, and it has AI scene recognition, so it can recognize like a cat or a dog, or like right here it recognized a plant, so it kind of pumped up the contrast. Yeah, and there's stereo speakers that come off on the left and right side. So the Honor Note 10 is awesome, man. It's much better than the Honor Play in every freaking way. The Honor Play just should not even exist. Like, what's the point of it? Thanks for watching.